Looking at the downside of your career, you had a fantastic career, riding and training over here, and as a trainer, and we'll come to that in America. Of course, when you moved to Manton, Robert Sangster called you in to run the great complex at Manton. What went wrong?
Well, I hadn't had enough experience on the flat. I'd had no experience
Right,
on
well,
the flat.
go back to that. What's the difference as a trainer, because you trained flat horses in America, the training of national hunt horses and flat horses? What is the difference?
In the flat horses, you go shorter and faster. It's more anaerobic training on the flat. It's more aerobic training jumpers.
Explain that. Explain that.
Well,
no, it's gone beyond me. What do? You get...
back to Robert.
Yeah.
Robert shouldn't have shouldn't have asked me to train for him, and I shouldn't have accepted. We both made a mistake. I'm a sort of third-rate jump jockey who'd been training jumpers for 3 years, and to suddenly chuck me into a big flat string in the south of England, outside my comfort zone, I was wrong to accept.
But you could say an inspired choice. Here was the
No,
but you could at the time before it happened.
Well,
We're coming to the top jumps trainer who's revolutionised the training methods. Could he do it on the flat?
well, yeah, but not in a year. Maybe in 5 years, but not in a year.
So what actually went wrong at Manton? I think you trained 4 winners. What happened in that year?
Well, one of the exercise riders came to me experienced and said, Michael, you're giving the horses too much work. And another experienced work rider said, you're not giving them enough work. And they were both right. Because I wasn't giving them enough work to win the races, but I was giving them too much work for their immature types.
How had you changed what you were doing with your national hunt horses?
Oh, changed the training a lot. Obviously with 2-year-olds, you only give them short, sharp canters. But, you know, we didn't get it right, and that's that.
How did Robert tell you that this has got to come to an end?
He didn't.
Who told you?
His manager, Ken Paul.
Was it a fraught meeting?
No, it's just the way of the world. You go onward, don't look back.
So
it's actually been great, because I went to America. And that's the best move I've made.
Why did you go to America after that real gaping failure on your CV?
Well, I couldn't start in England, could I? And we'd had an American vet working with us, Dr. Lambert, in Manton. And he said, I can't help you in England. I think you're all right. Come to America and I'll send you 12 horses. So that's why I went to America. And it's the best thing I've done. I've been really happy in America. More happy than I could have been in England, much as I still love England. But I love America. I've been there 27 years. I'm a Yank.
Looking back, if you could change anything, would you have changed anything going to Manton, apart from not doing it?
Yes.
Going there, is there anything you should have done that you now understand that you didn't do?
Oh, absolutely, yes, because I've now been training on the flat for 27 years, and we won 8 Grade 1s and 2 Breeders' Cups. So obviously I know a lot more now than I did then. I still don't know a hell of a lot, mind you.
But what you're saying is it is totally different. Most people don't realise that. It is totally different with jump horses and flat horses.
Oh, absolutely, yes, definitely.
And apart from the 2-year-olds, and obviously you can't work them as hard, what is the main difference then? You work them longer and harder, do you, the national hunt horses? Have they got to be even fitter, or is the same level of fitness needed for both?
You'll have to ask them real trainers, not me. I'm an imposter.
No, you're not, of course you're
yes.
not. Of course you're not an imposter, of course you're not. But is there are different methods, and you...
There's some really good trainers over here now. And I'm sure if you get the 5 top trainers and ask them, they'll give you much better information than I can.
Your American experience, and of course you're remembered for De Haas, the wonderful old fellow who won 2 Breeders' Cups miles. Tell us about De Haas.
Okay, well, when he won his first Breeders' Cup, it was quite, straightforward training. It was easy to train, he won. And then the following year, when he was training in South Carolina, he got a tendon. He was off for a year. And then 6 weeks before, well, he'd been off, yes. 6 months before the Breeders' Cup, he was still wrong. And I called up the owners and said, I need some more time. And then 6 weeks before the Breeders' Cup, 2 vets said, you're going to have to retire him. And my head man, Miguel Piedra, said, don't worry, he said, we'll get him there. So we put him in a small race, only a $10,000 purse somewhere, at a track you've never heard of. And he won that and went straight to Breeders' Cup.
But the crowds loved it, didn't they? You got a huge reception, and because I was there, and it was a magical moment.
Well, it was for me, yes.
It was for you, and for a lot of people, because the old warrior had come back and regained his title. People love that sort of heart-warming story, don't they? Looking back on your career again, and we're dancing backwards and forwards, as National Hunt, as a rider, you never rode or as a trainer trained a winner of the Grand National. How much does that hurt you?
Oh, I'd love to have either ridden or trained the national. I rode in 2 nationals, but unfortunately I fell. One of my horses, trained, finished 7th in the national. I'd love to ride round Aintree tomorrow. I haven't ridden the horse for a few years.
Yeah, but those soft, now, what do you think the so-called soft defences, beaches have been levelled?
They had to change it. The public don't like to see too many falls, and they've done the correct thing.
So you support what Aintree management and the BHA did?
Absolutely, yes.
A lot of the old stages don't. They say, oh, it's not the same. And
we have to move with the times. But having said that, I'd still like to ride round.
But how much easier would it, I say easier, relative, use the word in...
I don't think it's any easier because they go faster.
Yeah, but people say you get more accidents and falls because they go faster.
Well, exactly, yes. I don't think it's any easier than it used to be.
Yeah, but beaches jumping off the edge of the world and all that sort of thing, that'll never happen again.
Well, it's still a great race.
And is the race you most covet, now, if looking back on your career, would you like to won that more?
Absolutely,
than
yes, absolutely.
More than say with Manton or Derby or anything like that?
No.
Or America, the Kentucky Derby, you know, where do you start?
Sometimes when you haven't had a winner for 4 weeks, you're just happy to win a Mickey Mouse Donkey Derby somewhere. So I'm sure anyone would be really happy to win any important race.
Now, you were responsible for bringing in the all-weather surface tapeter, and that's flourishing now at Wolverhampton. In America, there is a sort of a call to go back to dirt, the old surface they used to have, and other tracks have been phased into dirt, etc. What is the position now about dirt racing, all-weather racing in America?
The Americans on the whole don't like synthetics.
Why?
Mainly for the betters. Second, for the breeders who've got millions invested in dirt stallions and dirt mares. And some of the early synthetic tracks weren't perhaps quite as good as they should have been. However, I do think in about 10 years' time, synthetics will reappear in America. Won't do me any good because I'll be dead by then. As you know, at the moment we can use a lot of drugs in America. You hear a lot about Lasix, but what you don't hear about is all the stacking of anti-inflammatories the week up to the race. So I think the new rules will cancel all that, and then they'll realise they won't be able to function with dirt racing without drugs.
Now, after you won the Gold Cup with Silver Buck in 1982, apparently a week or so later, you gave a commentary on the upcoming 1983 Gold Cup. How did that come about?
That's right. It was to my girlfriend Joan. She says, "Oh, well done." And I said, "You haven't seen anything yet." I said, "We're going to have the first 7 next year." So every time we got in the car and we drove down Harewood Avenue, because I'd only do it in her presence because I didn't want anyone else to hear me.
You were imagining you were Sir Peter O'Sullivan.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're under start of orders for the 1983 Gold Cup, and Michael Dickerson's got 7 horses here. So I did the call. And then going out the last circuit is Brigorn is forcing the pace and going up to the top of the hill, and Wayward Lad is making steady and relentless progress. And then coming down the hill, I would say Captain John a mistake at the second last. And then coming to the last, because I didn't know who I wanted to win. I didn't want anyone
I want to find that out for you. Did you give a winner in your commentary?
No. So the only thing I said, the only thing certain, the cup's going to Harewood. That was my call. So every time we jumped in the car with Joan, I'd call. So she'd heard this call 50 times. No one else had heard them, but she called it. She'd heard it. Now, fast forward, she wasn't allowed to go racing at the time. She was a school teacher, and they wouldn't let her watch the race on television. So she smuggled a radio and an earphone and gave her class a very difficult test to do. And one poor guy called up miss and he got chewed out, but never mind. So she was listening to actually Peter Bromley. And they're under starters orders for the 1983 Gold Cup, and Michael Dickinson's got 5, you see. So the first ring, well, he's failed because he's only got 5 in it. So, but just as my call said, Bregon forces the pace because he was there. She says, well, I've heard this before. And then at the top of the hill, and Wayward Lad is making steady and relentless progress. Well, she says, I've heard this before. And Captain John a mistake 2 out. She says, I've heard this before. There she is in her small school room in Durham. And then coming to the last, Peter Bromley just said, well, there's only one thing certain, the cup's going to Dickinson. But I'd said going to Harewood, and she just burst out in tears. And she'd heard that commentary 50 times.
But you never gave her the winner?
Never gave it a winner, no. No, I'm not that smart.